Hi folks, this is Meredith from the Papery Craftery. Today I am going to be sharing a quick holiday craft for Valentine's Day. We're going to be making some quilling paper hearts and then turning them into balloons and making sort of a balloon bundle, balloon bouquet. I'm going to be using this True Red from Craft Harbor. You can use any color you wish for this. This is just what I'm demonstrating with today. And then I also have some white. We'll talk about size of pieces later on. Any quilling tool that you like will work for this. I'm going to be using a needle tool, but you can use any slotted tool if you'd like to do that as well. You will also need some tweezers. They are pretty important for this project. A small paintbrush in case you have extra glue to wipe away. Speaking of glue, I'm using just plain Elmer's glue wall in my needle nose squeeze bottle. And also some small scissors will come in handy for one section of this project. And then you should also use a cork board covered in whatever surface you like. And we're going to be turning this balloon bouquet into a card later on. So any type of blank card, if you choose to do that as well, with a ruler and a marking pen. Now this project is similar to hearts that I have made before. I actually have even made a heart balloon bouquet long time ago. Wasn't super happy with that, but I'm sort of combining those two projects into one here. This strip of this Craft Harbor paper is about 22 inches long. What I'm doing is I tore it in half to make two equal pieces. And that will end up with a balloon that's a little bit smaller than about 3/4 of an inch. The size on this is completely up to you. What matters is that you have two equal pieces. So if you want to make really big balloons, you would use longer pieces. If you want to use smaller balloons, you would use smaller pieces. After I rolled that from end to end, I'm letting it open up a bit in my hands. I know some people like to use those little circle templates for that. If that's how you like to do that, go ahead. I prefer just to do it in my hands. And after you have that coil set, you're going to set that aside and roll up the other strip exactly the same way. And again, the important thing is that these are the same size. So even though the strips are the same size, if you let them open up in different ways, they could end up being slightly different. So what I like to do is roll one up all the way to the end, take it off the tool, let it open up in the same way. So again, if you use your hands to guide it, that's great. If you use the method of a template, that's fine too, but just make sure you do the same thing for both. And then I just kind of like to hold them up against each other just to more or less eyeball it and make sure that one hasn't kind of gotten a little bit too big. And then I'm going to glue that end and get that sealed. And now we can start forming the actual heart. This is a very classic quilling paper style to do, making these hearts. All it is two pieces, each one formed into a teardrop, so that just means pinching one side. I like to pinch on the edge where I sealed it to kind of hide that seam. And then I also like to hold the center with one hand while I pinch with the other, and that keeps your center coil where it needs to be. Now we're going to move on over to our cork board and form the heart on there. I like to turn my teardrops so that the strips of quilling paper in the center kind of point towards each other. That's just a personal preference thing. I think it looks a little bit more finished that way. And then add a little line of glue all the way from about 2/3 down to the very tip. It's really important that you do get that little tip with some glue on it, because if you just left it like this, those teardrops naturally like to kind of pull away from each other. So you want to make sure that you have the glue all the way down, because when you pin it together, that end on the peak of the heart is really going to come together and make it look very finished. You don't have to do that. Again, if you don't mind yours kind of having that little gap at the bottom, that is okay. I like to really pinch them together on a cork board with the pins and just get them really set in there. Now we're going to add a little detail to turn these into balloons. I have the same color that true red again, I have about 2 inches. That size may vary. If your balloons are different sizes, you might want to play around with that. But I just rolled it again end to end on my quilling tool, took it off, and now I'm going to glue the end to seal it. And then just like before, I'm giving it a real hard pinch on one side. Get that to stay, there we go. One hard pinch. Back in focus, there we go. On one side, makes it real flat. And then I'm going to take my other hand and I'm going to push in onto the bottom. Makes sort of like a triangle-ish kind of shape. What we're doing is actually making the little knot on the bottom of the balloon. There's always a little bit of extra piece that comes off after you tie a balloon. You can also, if you want it to be even more exaggerated, I'm using my needle tool here, but your slotted tool would work too, or a toothpick or something really small, just to push in that bottom really hard just to make it look even more indented on the bottom. And that really makes it look like the knot of a balloon. And then all it takes there is a little bit of glue on the bottom to attach. Tweezers might be helpful because this is so small. Sometimes it goes flying across the room. Just get it glued right at the bottom of your heart. If you have any extra glue, don't forget to brush that away. That's all it is to that part. We're going to add one more detail to really turn these into balloons. That last detail is going to be made of the white paper. I have about 1.5 inches here, and I'm going to roll it up just like I've been doing start to finish and take it off the tool, let it open up a little bit. This white paper is going to be that little highlight on the balloon that you see where the sun always hits it, and it is going to aid in the idea that these balloons are kind of three-dimensional. So after I took it off the tool and glued down the edge just a little bit, I am going to just smush the heck out of it. Make it really, really flat. And I also like to run it along my needle tool to soften it up and really kind of get a little curve in it, because what we're going to be doing is pushing it in between layers of our heart. That will make sense very shortly. So I really got that flattened out and I got a little bit of a curve to it. Now grab my heart again and get a little closer. You can see exactly what I'm going to do. It will help if you get some of your pins out of there, but if you are using pins, leave 1 or 2 in, and that will keep your heart in place while you're doing that so it's not sliding around on you. You're not going to have enough hand to hold it while you're doing this. With tweezers, again, tweezers are really going to help. And I like to go for the top left corner, slide one edge in, and then move it around a little bit in place with your tweezers if you need to. I don't even use any glue for these. The strips of quilling paper inside this heart actually keeps it in place. This can be a little tricky. Do not get frustrated if your heart gets a little bit malformed or if you're having a hard time pushing it in. You can use your quilling tools to kind of move the layers of your paper around a little bit. You might have to make 1 or 2 extra hearts. Sometimes that happens. Don't stress. It's all good. So you can see here I made about 10, I think, in a rainbow kind of a motif for these balloons. And now I am going to draw the balloon strings. This card I'm showing here is about 3.5 by 5. It's just what I had on hand. I played around with making the strings out of quilling paper strips, kind of an on-edge style, and it ended up being a little too clunky. I also am only going to draw 5 strings. I have 1 going down the center here. I'm going to do 2 longer ones at an angle on either side of that, and then 2 on the outside of those as well. You can do this however you want. This is obviously just a demonstration. If you want yours to look like mine at the end, you know, follow a little closely or just use this as a starting point. I found that one of my trials, I ended up trying to use my marker to make 10 strings, and it looked bonkers. It looked so crowded and just too much. So I ended up only drawing the 5 strings, and then you'll see when I put them on, even though I have more than one balloon, it looks like it's sitting on the string. All together, it gives the illusion that some balloons are in front, some are behind, especially because I made them in different sizes. The look entirely is a bunch of balloons. So don't worry about them being on the same string. It all works out in the end. After you have your balloon strings ready to go, it might not be a bad idea to play around with your balloons before you start gluing them down, just to make sure you like the placement. I have some that are bigger, some that are smaller. The important thing is that you have all of your highlights on the same side of the balloon. Make sure you don't accidentally flip any over. So you can see all of my little highlights are on the top left corner. If I was to flip over one of these balloons accidentally and glue it down, the highlight would be on the opposite side of the balloon, and that isn't going to make them look like the sun's all shining on them in the same way. It would definitely look off. So keep that in mind when you're attaching your heart balloons. And, you know, like I said, it's just a rainbow here. That was the idea for this one. So this would be good for not only Valentine's Day, but any other time when you wanted to show someone you love them. If they're not all super into the gushy reds and pinks, you can make these look however you want. And also to cover where all the balloons meet, I do have a little quilling paper bow. I have a video on how to make that, so I'm not going to go into it in detail here, but I will definitely link to that in the description box for this video. Once you have your hearts and your bow where you'd like them, you can use your white glue, a couple dots underneath. Again, tweezers are very helpful for this project. Place it back on your card wherever you like, and that's it. Here is a completed card. My bow is there, my balloons are on. You can add whatever you like to the inside. Here is one, speaking of Super Valentines. This is a kind of an ombre pink design. So I started with a light pink, went to a medium pink, and then a darker pink on the bottom. But the same idea. I know I'm going to get questions on this, so bear in mind that it is tricky to put these in the same size envelope. If you were going to mail these, you would probably want to put a thin piece of cardboard in the envelope as well to make sure that they don't get smushed. I should probably do a video on shipping quilling paper designs, but I will leave that for another time. But for now, I will link to all the different colors I used for these cards and also any supplies that I used in the description box for this video. I'll also leave down there a link to the rest of my Valentine's Day playlist because there's a lot of other hearts and things on there. Leave any comments or questions you have and I'll answer those as soon as I can. Don't forget to like and subscribe, of course, so you'll be around for my next video. And thank you so much for watching. Bye-bye.